So I've been watching like the self-improvement content for almost 2 whole years now, and I've always heard of the concepts of like a 4-hour work week or getting everything done before the rest of your family wakes up in the morning. However, even though I constantly heard of all these things, I have always found productivity to be one of the most daunting challenges in my life. I mean, I'm just a regular 15-year-old whose time and mental energy is being occupied by homework and other school responsibilities. And to be 100% honest, all I want to do is work on creating projects and developing skills that will contribute towards my future goals. But my limited hours at home makes me not have enough time to deliberately work on creation and writing content. However, because I've spent hours immersing myself with self improvement, business, and productivity content, I was able to condense and implement the most valuable lessons I've learned from my favorite influencers and mentors, like people like Alex Ramosi, Dan Ko, Hamza, Ali Abdal, Iman Ghazi. Like all of these successful people, I've taken their lessons and then I've implemented them into my life, and those lessons made drastic progress into me achieving my goals. And so in this video, I'm going to share the 5 most valuable lessons I've learned throughout my journey that is allowing me to balance school with self-improvement and creating my business or working towards my life's purpose. And so lesson 1 is the 2-hour workday. Here's a question that genuinely changed the way I work. If you could only work on a goal for up to 2 hours a day, what would you do? And I fucking love this question because it forced me to cut the fluff and bullshit and made me prioritize the most important tasks that will make progress towards my goals. This is something I learned from Hamza Ahmed, and he says that one of the biggest things separating the successful people from people like us who are trying to be successful is that the rich prioritize tasks, while people like me and you are just doing whatever the fuck we want and hoping we make progress. And I'm being 100% honest, that is literally me. Like every time I'd come home from school to start working on my business, instead of actually working on making progress and creating content and recording YouTube videos, I would spend my time doing useless tasks like looking for a new Notion template. And I just often found myself opting to do something that felt productive but isn't producing anything. Instead, I should have been doing the most important task that gets me closer to my goals, which is usually just doing the goal itself. So if my goals were to write better content and record better videos, my most important task would be to write content and record videos, not look for new Notion templates and writing frameworks. Those things will come naturally as I collect data from doing my most important task. And additionally, this 2-hour workday directly correlates with the next lesson, which is lesson number 2, the power hour. And no, it's not the drinking game. One of my favorite things that I've learned from Dan Ko is to spend 1 to 2 hours a day, preferably in the morning, doing what he calls the power hour. And this variation of the power hour is not who can drink as much shots as they can. Rather, it's an hour of deep, undistracted, focused work. And as mentioned earlier, this can be a good time to do your most important task because you want to be able to work in an environment with no distractions. This way you can enter a state of flow. And more on flow will be talked about in lesson 3. But the best times that I've found to do my power hours is 6 to 7 a.m. when most of my family is still asleep, and 7 to 8 p.m. before I go to sleep. However, doing this in the morning is probably the perfect time to execute your power hour because this will most likely be the time that none of your distractions will be awake. Also, another added benefit of doing this early in the morning is that you will be awake and working towards your goals while your competition is still asleep. And knowing that you just cranked out your most important and ambitious task before your competition wakes up is one of the best fucking feelings. And I swear to you, this feeling gives me like a slight testosterone boost. Lesson number 3, flow state. Every time I would play video games, either by myself or with friends, I would always enter a state of flow where I started to like merge with the game that I was playing. I had no irrelevant thoughts, like nothing was distracting me, and I was just immersed with whatever I was doing in my game. Sometimes it would be trying to go on a kill streak in Destiny 2, or trying to get a good ultimate in Overwatch 2, or trying to clutch a 1v3 in Fortnite, or simply just building a survival base in Minecraft. Just I had absolutely zero off-topic thoughts while playing video games. And then it hit me that if I could get into a state of flow where I have zero distracting thoughts when playing video games, then I could get into that same state while working. And by limiting my distractions and immersing myself with my work, I instantly 10x my productive output because I was able to merge with the task at hand. And this goes into a more philosophical and spiritual meaning, but this is the real gift of human nature. When you can merge and get into a flow state with your purpose. And this will be a whole separate video because this is a very fucking important thing. So yeah, lesson 3, get into a flow state. Lesson number 4. Every time I read a book, I used to take notes at the same time. So I would read a book and take notes simultaneously. Is that how you say it? But yeah, so I'd get into a good flow of reading, and when something caught my attention, I'd shift my focus to my journal and make a couple of bullet points. However, something that always happened to me when I transitioned from reading my book to writing down a note is that I struggled to get back into a good flow of reading. And every single time I diverted my focus away from reading, it disrupted my attention and made me more vulnerable to distractions while working. So to combat this struggle of reading and taking notes at the same time, I've been taking notes after I finish reading a section or chapter of my book. So instead of taking notes at the same time while I was reading, I would just make a quick bookmark, usually in the form of like a little star on the page, just to notify myself that this is a particular section of the book that caught my attention while reading it, and so I could go back to it later after I finish reading the section of the book. This way I don't disrupt my flow and I'm able to stay in that zone of reading while still being able to take notes. And this also applies to every task that requires a lot of your attention and focus. If it's something like running while listening to a podcast, that's fine, but something like doing homework, then stopping to check your Instagram notifications, and then going back to doing your homework isn't going to cut it. So stop trying to juggle multiple things at once. Just focus on channeling your energy into completing one thing at a time. Lesson number 5, use a calendar. The Trident method is something I learned from Ali Abdaal, and utilizing a calendar to plan out my day for maximum productivity is something that I've been trying to keep a stable habit. And especially with school, AP classes, sports, and other extracurriculars, managing my time is probably at its highest peak of importance in my life so far. And being able to create time blocks for specific tasks and events in my life is almost crucial in making sure I can stay on top of my shit. And Ali's Trident calendar system, where essentially you just plan out your ideal year, week, and day, and also Danco's Power Planner, are 2 extremely impactful resources that I've been using recently to really optimize my life for maximum productivity and progress. Because they not only allow me to plan out time blocks for my power hours, but also because they remind myself of important events and due dates. They help me set big goals and then break them down into something smaller. And they even help me prioritize and find my most important task. And even though using a calendar system seems like a tedious task because you might not be able to follow it 100%, and this is something that I used to think as well, but I've come to the realization that a calendar is just there to serve as a framework of your ideal lifestyle, and you could follow it if you can, or if you want to. And even if you don't follow your ideal day or week 100%, following it even as much as 15% is still substantial progress than if you were to go about your day mindlessly. And well, there you have it, my 5 best pieces of advice that I've learned about productivity that I've been using to balance pretty much everything important in my life. So to recap, the 2-hour workday, the power hour, flow state, stop multitasking, and to use a calendar. But you need to remember that none of these lessons matter if you never take action, because you need to execute and implement the things you learn, and you need to acquire data from execution and then refine what works to create your own system and workflow over time. So start creating. I am also launching my new newsletter, and I'm also branching out to other social medias. So those will be linked in the description, and they're all going to serve as like a public journal where I'm going to document my journey towards success and living a fulfilling life. So if you want to see how I'm doing it so you could replicate it yourself, feel free to do so. And as always, thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.